Why the Democrats' latest gun grab effort will fail. We'll be looking at the latest in the political class's attempt at blaming you, the law-abiding citizen, for the latest mass shooting. We're going to see the real cause of violent crime, and make sure to stick with me to the very end of this video when I'll reveal precisely why all of this is nothing more than sound and fury, ultimately signifying nothing. You are not gonna want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you. As always, I am your daily fake news antidote, so come on into your Patriots, Professors Den. We're happy to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we begin, if you have an IRA, a 401k, or a savings account, you're going to absolutely love getting to know a Patriot group that has become good friends to this channel as we're watching our retirement savings squandered with bumbling Biden's record inflation and reckless spending. Our amazing friends over at Goldco are here to help you find out how you can protect your retirement with the trustworthiness of gold and silver. And just to show you how amazing these guys are, click on that link below right now, and they're going to give you, I kid you not, up to $10,000 in free silver when you open up an account. You heard that right, $10,000 in free silver, but it's a limited time offer, so don't wait. Click on that link below or go to turleytalkslikesgold.com and find out how awesome Goldco really is. You will not be disappointed. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. There's a lot of talk out there right now among our feckless so-called leaders in the permanent political class to start banning guns after the horrific shooting in the elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Bumbling Biden once again showed why he is his own worst enemy, claiming that 9mm bullets, quote, blows the lung out of the body, and there's no reason for anyone to own 9mm bullets. Now, anyone who's remotely familiar with 9mm bullets knows it's emphatically not true. It is the standard bullet for a 9mm handgun, which is the most popular home defense weapon in the United States. Good luck banning that, Joe. But it does look like he's going to try. He may even have a little help from some feckless Republicans. And across the border, soy boy Trudeau in Canada is exploiting this tragedy to increase his own political power, proposing an effective freeze on all handguns in the nation, taking his draconian rule to a whole new level. Now, fortunately, we do have some real leaders, like Virginia's Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, who recognizes the obvious. The issue is not the gun, it is the culture that cultivates violent crime. It's emphatically not the weapon per se. And for his part, Senator Ted Cruz is boldly defending the Second Amendment, saying that we cannot allow tragedy to trample the Constitution. Now, the obvious question, well, it's obvious to me, why does our permanent political class insist on sequestering the gun issue from larger cultural issues? I mean, I'll never forget Bernie Sanders' argument for how global warming is contributing to Middle Eastern terrorism. Have you ever heard this? According to Sanders, climate change results in droughts and famines. Droughts and famines cause people in the Middle East to migrate into cities. In the cities, they quickly find out there are no jobs. People who don't have jobs are somehow more susceptible to radicalization because they're more receptive to the propaganda that Al-Qaeda and ISIS are pushing. And Muslims radicalized are likely to become terrorists. Therefore, global warming actually increases terrorism. I kid you not. This is actually what Bernie Sanders and a number of woke leftists peddle. Now, beside it committing the fallacy of slippery slope, it nonetheless tries, albeit desperately, to try to discern cultural and, in this case, ecological causes and effects. It doesn't isolate an issue from wider cultural implications. But for some reason, when our permanent political class refuses to do the same with guns, the cultural context of gun violence is frankly obvious. I don't know how many of you are aware, but over Memorial Day weekend in Philadelphia, 12 people were shot to death, with multiple people wounded in various shooting incidents throughout the city. Now, contrast that with the fact that the Amish represent perhaps the highest density of gun ownership among any demographic. Amish use guns to hunt and deal with, feral animals on their property and the like. Virtually every single Amish home has a firearm, and yet The Amish have literally no gun violence issues whatsoever. So what's the difference between the Amish and what's going on in Philly? Is it the gun? Is it the bullet? Or is it the culture? Now, there have been nothing less than a preponderance of studies demonstrating the link between the breakdown of the family and violent crime. For example, the rate of violent crime actually rises in direct proportion to the rate of fatherlessness in any given community. According to a study by the Heritage Foundation, a 10% increase in fatherlessness typically leads to a 17% increase in juvenile crime. Today, as we speak, there's a 72% illegitimacy rate among black people. In 1938, it was 11%. In 1960, only 22% of black kids lived in a single female-headed parent household. Today, it's over 70%. Also, the poverty rate among blacks is 37%, but if they're married and working, it's only 8%. And it's been that way for decades. And the poverty rate among blacks who have both mother and father working is only 5%. So the poverty is picked up because of these female-only heads of households. And it's the same in white communities and Latino communities. There's no white privilege here, right? White single-head female households are just as poor and just as susceptible to violent crime as black single-headed households. There's not a shred of difference except the fact that blacks are more likely to be single parent. Now, the key to solving all this is, therefore, the revitalization of faith, family, and freedom. Especially faith, by the way, because religious neighborhoods tend to have very low crime rates. Faith, family, and freedom are empirically demonstrable solutions to this violent crime epidemic. So why is the permanent political class so prone to ignore this and push instead for confiscations and crushing the rights of law-abiding citizens? Well, before we get into that, how do you like this shirt, huh? Since we're redefining everything, this is now a cordless hole puncher. Well, if you like that, you can get your own by clicking on the link below and visiting our amazing merch store with the best designs in the world. It is a great way to both support this channel and spread patriot hope far and wide. Click on that link or go to store.turleytalks.com. That is store.turleytalks.com. All right, so first off, we need to look no farther than the fact that modern leftist liberals, they basically redefine the family out of existence, okay? The family today has no objective meaning because the traditions that provided that objective meaning have been resoundingly rejected by liberals. This is exactly what makes them liberals. They advocate liberation from traditional conservative structures. So that's number one. Liberals have, in fact, killed the family. They've turned it into nothing more than a lifestyle choice and have effectively hollowed out the moral obligations inherent in the traditional family structure. But at an even wider level, we've got to understand that globalist technocratic societies are governed by what scholars call risk societies. And risk societies is a term which refers to the unique ways in which modern people deal with hazards and insecurities as they relate to the future. Now, there are basically two reasons for why we moderns are unique in the way we handle potential threats and hazards. First, we're more reliant on scientific and technological processes in our day-to-day living than any previous society. Science and technology have penetrated into virtually every aspect of our lives from the moment we wake up to a digital alarm and, turn on our lights to making our cup of coffee and microwaving our breakfast, to driving to work, to sitting at a computer, right, sending out emails and texts on our smartphones and the like. However, secondly, this technological age comes at a cost. Technology-based societies tend to reject traditional moral conceptions of life. And this is exactly what we're just talking about with regard to the rejection of the traditional conception of the family. This is because technology is organized and governed by modern scientific processes, which are considered value neutral and thus supposedly devoid of any moral frames of reference. So in many respects, we're living in what we might call a post-traditional or post-moral age within a globalist frame of reference. In pre-modern societies, we might say that something bad happened because we disobeyed God. Modern societies have nothing to do with this line of reasoning. Instead, We look to material environmental factors such as demographic, economic, political, social causes and effects to explain what happened. And the key to the risk society is this. Risk societies control behavior by controlling environments. I'll say that again because it's essential. Risk societies control human behavior by controlling human environments. And so in any mass shooting, what is the most obvious environmental factor? Especially when you've redefined the traditional family out of existence. It no longer has any kind of explanatory significance. Well, of course, it's the weapon. The gun inexorably becomes the object of control in risk societies. And so that's where you get gun control from. These are real globalists, gang. They are our permanent political class, and they are real technocrats. And they really believe that controlling environmental factors like guns is the key to controlling you. And that's the bottom line. Now, the good news, at least here in the United States, I can't speak for Canada, this is going to be a hard sell. It's going to be a hard sell both because of the absolute abrogation of law enforcement responsibilities by our political class in the wake of the summer riots of 2020, right? Where ordinary citizens like Mark and Patricia McCloskey in St. Louis had to protect themselves in lieu of the absence of, right, police protection. That fact, that default defunding of the police 2 summers ago is enough to put an end to all this absurd gun control rhetoric, at least in terms of its plausibility. However, the Supreme Court has turned solidly to the right in terms of gun ownership in the United States. Scholars go back to the court's ruling in Heller versus District of Columbia back in 2008, which effectively reversed the court's long-standing position that the right to bear arms is merely a collective or corporate right that state governments were free to regulate however they wished. In other words, the Supreme Court, up until that point, back in 2008, up until that point, the Supreme Court had been ruling pretty consistently that the Second Amendment was a general rule of gun ownership that could be regulated in any way that the state governments wished. As of 2008, that perspective effectively died. Now the Supreme Court says, no, the Second Amendment applies equally to each individual person. It is not a collective or corporate right that says the, quote, people can own guns, and then the states can decide who comes under the category of people, right? No. According to Heller versus District of Columbia, this decision back in 2008, each and every person has a right to own a firearm, and state governments cannot thwart the right of any individual to gun ownership. Now, I think this is one of the reasons why, if you've noticed, all the liberal hysteria surrounding the need for gun control over the last few decades, especially under the Obama administration, goes nowhere. It dies down as fast as it arises. Liberals know it's all kabuki theater. Any restrictive gun ownership measures are going to be struck down by the Supreme Court, probably in a 6-3 decision. It's consistently ruled since 2008. The Second Amendment's application to individual gun ownership will not be infringed. But that doesn't mean that, our permanent political class isn't going to act. I mean, they're not going to act out their parts in this ridiculous kabuki theater. They're going to run around pretending that they're actually doing something when they're actually doing nothing, along with CNN. Whatever they pass will eventually go to the courts and will be struck down. And in the meantime, the family, the bedrock of civilization, will continue to implode in many parts of our eroding society, leaving more and more disasters in its wake. Now, before we go, you will definitely want to check out my last video I just uploaded that explores a very serious question. Are we experiencing as a nation a demonic uprising? A number of real serious pundits are asking that question and exploring its implications. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.